Welcome to the Bellingham podcast for the week of March 29, 2020. This is episode 149. Broadcasting to you from the Northwest of the Northwest since 2016, I am Chris Powell, and sitting in another location, a podcast goat. And I'm not talking about the animal, take note. Never want to promote or showboat or sugarcoat the anecdote, clearing his throat for the show topics he wrote that we, for this episode, are recording remote. He's your friend of mine, Mr. AJ Barcet, end quote. So AJ, for the love of all of us who are going stir crazy in our personal residence, tell him how you're feeling.
Well, I am clearing my throat as your king of quarantine. How you doing, Chris?
I'm here in my residence. We are in unique times, even more so nowadays. So how about yourself?
Hanging in there. I mean, my apologies to our listeners. Our show is coming out a little bit late. For anyone who knows Chris and I, our work lives have been ratcheted to about 20, not even 11, to about 20. So
yeah, it's been fun.
That's a word. So by the time that you get this, we'll be a little bit late. But Chris and I wanted to get out of our way to make sure that we got an episode out. And these episodes that are going to be remote are going to have a nice little tag called the Quarantine Chronicles. So
this would be Volume 1, right?
Volume 1, and we're going to keep on doing this because we're abiding by Jay Inslee's new order of stay home and stay healthy. And so Bellingham Podcast is going to go forth in that same vein. So
we're definitely keeping a social technological distance, seeing as how we're in our houses miles away from each other. So, but through the magic of the internet, we're right in the same room, it seems like, except I can't see you now. So I can't be giving you naughty looks or something like that when you go off on a rant.
Oh, well, and I know you have to do that very often for me, Chris, but
yes,
but yeah, no, it'll be interesting. And gosh, I'm glad that there's a technologist or two in the room to make all this newfangled technology work.
Oh my gosh. I'm looking forward to the day either when I win the Mega Millions jackpot or I actually hit retirement and I don't have to solve people's technology issues. It's just a dream thought right now. But anyway, so many requests for help. But anyway, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about something else. Go for it.
So let's start at the top of the show. So this, like I said, this episode of the Quarantine Chronicles, we're going to hit on observations that you and I have seen around Bellingham in general, and then share some of the stuff that you and I have been doing, arguably on one of the foregrounds of ground zero for dealing with the COVID-19, because we do work in instructional technology and IT. So talking about how we're getting work done. And on a more sanity note, what we're doing to prevent ourselves from going bonkers, especially because you and I are both family men. And so the dynamics of having everybody in a house and trying to get work done, this will be interesting.
And we're also doing our part to try to not be a carrier or a recipient of that friggin' virus that's going on right now. And I'm keeping it clean right now, but I'm not really happy with this thing.
No, I don't think anybody is.
Anyway, around Bellingham, I'm tending to be a good citizen and stay in my residence for the most part. However, you got to get out every now and then. And so just as I've been going out in my car or with my family, I just am hearing Don Henley's song, "Nobody on the Road, Nobody on the Beach." I feel it in the air. And no, this is not coronavirus this time. It's just such a unique time from a traffic standpoint. Traffic has always given me the clanks, and I try to avoid traffic as much as possible. But you know what? The roads are just not as populated because people are playing by the request. It's just really eerie. We are in an eerie time. Maybe this would be chapter 1, the Eriesville. It just seems a little off because, everyone has a different way of going about their life and it's not the usual. But I just hear the boys of summer in my mind I don't see a whole lot of people around. However, when I am out and about or walking around with the social distancing, I love that term, people are waving hi and smiling from a safe distance. That is something something happening, at least around Bellingham. Hopefully where you're listening, that there are people that you get out and get some fresh air. Others are being friendly to you and in an understanding manner. But before, when this first happened for us here in Bellingham, and I'm sure around the world, a lot of grocery store lines were starting to accumulate. And we were talking about, 45-minute waits to get through the lines of a whole lot of carts and things. I think people are realizing and, dare I say, accepting the situation. And so I'm seeing a lot more understanding, a lot less complaining while people are getting their grub.
Yeah, no, I've been seeing the same. Honestly, what the first time the announcement was going out that we were going to kind of start to be ratcheted down, boy howdy, those shelves everywhere were just barren and empty. It
Yeah.
literally looked like a zombie apocalypse up here.
We tried to be strategic in kind of checking out the news reports and some other social media avenues to see about which stores are being raided and which stores don't have long lines. It was a crapshoot, and oftentimes I rolled snake eyes. How the store has been for you if you've gone to them?
Yeah, we have. So I should say we did some drive-bys, and we also went into a few. Given, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the show. I have a house full of allergies, so relatively speaking, selections for us are even more critical, because I can't just reach over and grab a carton of milk. My kiddo is allergic, and add nine more things that I can't just reach for. And so the go-tos that I usually go for my family have all basically been off the shelves for weeks. Now we have, a regular stockpile that we have, just because it's hard enough to get the stuff that we need for food in our house. So, we're fine. We're working on reserves, but it just reminded me, everybody who is stockpiling and hoarding, in preparation for this, you have to take care of you and your own. I totally respect that. But I just want to throw out, don't forget your neighbors. Just because you can take, 10 bags of Fritos. I don't know why I'm picking Fritos, but 10 bags.
Because they're tasty. That's why.
Sure. But, let's pick Oatly oat milk, because that's something that's regular in my house. Oatly is hard enough because it's Scandinavian. It's hard enough to even get on before COVID. And now, after that, we've been on a lockdown order. There's an entire network online that just tries to track so that you can find Oatly, especially if you're an allergy family. So just as you're stocking up, make yourself a reserve, but don't think that you have to have the Fort Knox for everything. As our governor basically stated, you do not have to go out and be a full-on prepper with this regard. Things are going to be flowing.
True, and we still have deliveries, and that's still going on, and we still have those absolute MVP employees that are restocking shelves to provide those supplies. And I think when you floor it at a stoplight, and you're just your RPMs go up to 7, and you're getting that huge boost of adrenaline pumping acceleration and thrown back in your seat, you eventually go out to that cruising speed that you maintain. And I think a lot of us out there were really concerned about the what if, and we didn't know what was going to be expected. Would we be able to get our 10 bags of Fritos? Well, we got to stock up for the zombie apocalypse. And I think as the days, because every day feels like a year, which is a great line for a song. It seems like as the days continue to progress in this era, the realization that, okay, the stores will still have stuff. Maybe I don't need to get a year's worth all in one shot.
No, I guess I equate it to much like we have to deal with at work, right? If you have 100,000 people hitting the same internet connection, it suffers for everyone. You can have 100 megabits a second, but if all 100,000 people hit it at the same time, you're only going to get 1 megabit. So
it's the hotel conference experience with the hotel Wi-Fi.
Exactly. Well, same thing with our foods, right? If everybody hits everything hard, that means it backs up the suppliers. It backs up the entire supply line, So anyway, I just wanted to throw it out as an allergy family, yes, be comfortable, but don't be gluttonous, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah, and save some of those beef jerky packets for me, because I like those. If you're out there and wanting to stock up on the beef jerky. Anyway, what else are you seeing out there in Bellingham, AJ?
So the other thing I've noticed, and I very much appreciated the fact that our governor actually addressed it. A lot of our culture here in the Pacific Northwest is about being out and about in nature, and the fact that our lockdown order I should say, stay at home order, but what
Sure.
you and I always call it, a lockdown order. Um, People are still out and about on the trails and walking. Now, at the time of this recording, there has been some trails that have been closed due to this lockdown order, but a lot of our neighborhood trails are still accessible. And even our governor, even encouraged us. Like, it is so much a part of the Pacific Northwest nature to be out in nature. We're not constricted to our home. So do take advantage of that so that you can get that stir craziness out. Or if you have a toddler like myself, don't let them get stir crazy, and get them out on the trails and walk around.
Get the wiggles out. It's important. And
Exactly.
especially when you're in the fresh air, I see in the forecast, we may have some rain in the future, but you know what? Dance in the rain like no one's watching. Just get out there.
Dang,
But,
Skippy.
be safe with other people around, because we don't know who might be carrying the virus, who might have the virus, or who might be a recipient of the virus. And we want to keep that in mind. But yeah, you got to enjoy what we have outside of our house as well.
Now, along those same lines, the one thing that I did notice is home improvement stores are probably just as bustling as grocery stores were a couple weeks ago right now. So everybody is trying to get supplies, mostly because I talked to a few folks working the register, and I was asking, like, what's the thing that's been flying off the shelves? And they kind of looked at me and they're going, the same thing that you are: fence posts, fencing, and raised beds.
Hmm,
So
interesting.
a lot of people. I mean, we had that bad wind. Well, pick a weekend we had a bad windstorm,
Right.
and now a lot of people are taking the opportunity, because what are you going to do on the weekend? You can't go anywhere. So finally, home improvement stuff, down fencing being one of the predominant things. I have it on good authority, being repaired, but also a lot of people are prepping their own gardens just in case. So I just wanted to
Sure.
throw that out. If you hadn't thought about that, one, if you have the space, this might be a good opportunity to. Home improvement stores are deemed essential, so they are still open, at least at the time of this recording. And you can build some raised beds, grow a couple of veggies, and as we get into the nice summer months. But do take into account, right now, home improvement stores in Bellingham may be a lot like the long lines that you saw around Winco about 2 weeks ago just to get in. I Like I said, I went to our local one that's just kitty corner to where we live, Chris, and there wasn't a line to get in, but there was sure a line to get out,
Oh
especially on
yeah.
the lumber side.
Yep. No, it's a great way to be able to combat the honeydew list that might be occurring for projects and things that have to be done. You got all this time, you're not doing anything and going out and being social.
Yeah.
Get your place prepped up. That's a good observation there.
And there is no better place to get your place in place than listening to our show on KMRE 102.3 FM.
Yeah, they're community powered and streaming all over the internet at kmre.org, especially in case if you're in Bellingham or around a transmitter signal, a terrestrial radio style. Check out Saturday at 3 p.m. on 102.3. They got our show broadcasting over the airwaves. How about that?
I love it. So, okay, Chris, let's get to our meat and potatoes, because it's not like you and I connect digitally almost every day, 5 days a week.
Yes.
Let's share some tips of how we're dealing with working at home.
What are you doing to get work done over in Casa de Barce?
Casa de Barce. So one of the things that I've started, like, at day one that all of this was hitting, is forming a normal routine to this abnormal time. So, for instance, as I've said on the show many times, like, coffee is sacrosanct for me in the mornings. And there's kind of a trifecta that I had to kind of bridge. And that was my morning coffee routine and having that little quiet solitude a couple of minutes before I would go out the door, hit the commute, go to the office, and voila. Well, now I have my morning coffee. My commute is literally going around my island to where my dining room used to be, because now it's my makeshift studio, and working in a house that has my wife that's working remotely and my son who's a
Working all over the
toddler, is
place.
working all over the place.
That's right.
And there, that takes a lot of flexibility. And I mean, a lot of our listeners are probably going to be in the same boat. Luckily we have 2 stories, so basically the downstairs is relatively mine and the upstairs is relatively theirs. But making a routine where that morning time is where I have my quiet time. So if I need to do punch-ins or video recording or any of that type of stuff, I try to get all of that blitzed in the morning before the Tasmanian devil wakes up, and
That's no way to talk about wifey. Stop that.
that would be my son, Chris, for the
Oh,
record.
okay. That yes, I got you.
But my commute, I realized that commute was that little bit of time where my mental detox. So I make sure I spend the time that I would have with my commute, and I extend that time where I have that mental clarity, kind of sorting out my day, and I'm not on the clock yet. And I think that's a big bugaboo for some people, because we get used to waking up at a certain time, we take our commute, and I'm noticing that a lot of people are just waking up and then starting their day extra early and still clocking off at the same time. And I just want to encourage people, don't forget, like, that if you were like me and you had a commute time, schedule that in as a time for you to kind of detox. Don't clock in early.
Along those lines, from the morning routine, I found that if you dress for the workday just like you would be, forget about the pajamas or the grubs that you would have around the house. If you get prepped just like you're headed to the office, you're going to be in a different mindset, even if it is that you're going to the dining table. We got to get in that mind frame of I'm working, and that what you're doing with the typical things. I've just found that I've been falling behind on my podcast because I listen to
Right.
them in my car, driving to the office, driving home, walking around. I don't get a chance to do that right now, but the other routines of the morning, they help give you that consistency of the day.
And see, if you're taking a page out of my book, you'd get up and then you'd still listen to your podcasts. I mean, you have crazy Puppo over there, so hopefully she
Yes.
doesn't break your quantum of solace over there. But
Oh, she's
you could
barkalicious all the time. So yeah. And even when the family's around, she's like, oh, more people to play with. Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
right.
moving on.
So the other thing that I've been doing is I've been taking a page out of your book, largely because of the juggling of family at home. I have to block out time for email. And
Yeah.
this is something, especially in our field, this is hard because there are the critical emails that you do have to triage ASAP. But the rest of them, if I were to just do the continuous trickle of emails and answer everything as they come in, I'd never get anything done, Chris, honestly. So blocking out triage time for email on your calendar, save for the VIPs that you have to address ASAP. That is a must. Okay. And beyond that, like, I've honestly, like, the one thing that drives me nuts is at the office, I had a stand up, sit down desk, and I also had a yoga ball because I am active, and honestly, I probably am a little bit more hyper than most adults. So it was beneficial for me. And I cannot, Chris, just sit on a couch and do work. I literally, my butt goes numb after about 5 minutes. I just can't do it. So standing, sitting, moving, just moving about. So I have a stool, and I also have an anti-fatigue mat from my kitchen. And I just brought it over so that I can stand and sit and, I don't know, bounce around as I normally would, as much as possible.
Continuing with the typical work life. That's the work experience. You're bringing that home, and that's what you need to do in order to still be productive.
Well, but also I think, like, I'm a little bit worried that as we're going to be more on lockdown, a lot of us used to, I had a walking commute to my work for part of my day, like I'm not getting my steps. My rings aren't closing, Chris, but
Yep.
compensating for that during the day so that you're not just kind of sitting couch potatoing and working type of a thing. Just, I'm trying to throw out, try to set up a situation, especially if you had a standing desk before all of this, to do a sitch. And I've got a video that I produced, and it's later in the show notes. Drink.
Yes.
I just realized I can't, like, point to you whenever I do that. And I pointed to the air, Chris, and you're not there.
Our regular listeners, the ones who have a punch card totally filled out by listening to our episodes, are going to realize this sounds a little different. It's because
does.
AJ and I aren't in the same room, and we can't see each other. We can't
You can't read
cue each other up with nonverbal body language. So yes, I'm kind of like,
So anyway, but no, just being able to blend your movement in your day. So that's kind of what I've been doing. What about you, Chris? What have you been incorporating in your day?
working at home with family. I just have had to close my door. not because I'm angry or anything like that, but just when I get with technology and coming up with solutions or resolutions to issues, I have to get into a state of deep focus. And if, with our dog coming in and begging for lovin's and pets and stuff like that, I can't do that. So limit the family distractions. I usually close the door to the guest room where I'm working from, and that's kind of in the do not disturb mode unless absolutely necessary. But the main thing, to get work done is I'm fighting my lizard brain that I currently have in this uncertain era, because as we are in new territory, we're in unfamiliar territory with a work week that involves no commute, no people, just us and a connection virtually to our office, so to speak. I'm telling my lizard brain, who's telling me, you got to be chained to your desk at 8 hours to earn your money and stuff. I'm telling it, I'm going to give you 8 hours of 100%. And I'm not expecting to accomplish superhuman results, because I'm in a current state where there's a great deal of requests for my help. And I take a chunk of work and I hit it hard. And then I have to continue doing what I'm doing in the office by getting up from the office, going to have a break, taking a
Yeah.
mental rest. I don't have to be transfixed on my screen for 8 consecutive hours. And it's an adjustment, because you're in the place where you're by yourself. You got to be working. You got to be able to treat the workday like it would be, but it just is at home. So I've been trying to, just 8 hours, the full workday, all my attention on it. And then after that, I completely focus on my family.
Yeah, no, I agree, Chris. Building in those respites in your day, no differently than you would have a break, and I would walk down to your office, you would walk up to mine, or whatever.
Yep.
You have to have that, especially if you're in the creative field, technical field, or in any field where you have to have that deep focus to find results. I agree.
Well, in this unique state of working in the uncertainty that we're facing, we need to grant ourselves permission. We need to allow ourselves to say, you know what, I'm going to take a 5-minute chat away from my computer, away from my desk, and talk with my spouse or my roommate or my loved one, or call someone just to say, hey, we're going to allow ourselves permission to actually go to the family room and turn on the TV and watch a 10-minute video on YouTube, if you got that on a streaming app, or watch a bit of a show. That also is, worth a walking to a colleague's office to have an informal meeting. We're not getting a lot of that now, in some cases, but that time that you're taking away from your computer, that also helps your brain process in the reserve cycles. And take permission to leave the office or wherever that's at, to have lunch away from your workplace. We do not need to be chained to our desk for 8 consecutive hours.
So, should we segue into what keeps us from going bonkers?
Sure, sounds good. Going bonkers, it's really easy to do that, and so it takes a concerted effort for us to keep things under control, keep things level-headed. But what do you do to balance things out when you're in an uncertain time? I actually, after work, I do some people will go to the watering hole, if you will, to have a pint. That puts them
They're
in
all
a good
closed.
mood. They're all closed. I've actually wanted to go back to a time, let my mind go back to a time where I have some pretty happy memories, or at least in hindsight, those were happy memories. I'm watching some 80s era MTV music videos on YouTube. I think about when I was growing up as a middle school lad, and I would think, okay, Wang Chung dance hall days. Let's watch that video. Oh, okay, let's check out Heart. The video from the rock band Heart. Let's check out the Cyndi Lauper video, something that would have fun back in the day, and just enjoy that. And then that would trigger some memories that it was a simpler time. And then also I don't know if those of you watch Game of Thrones, or if you watch Game of Thrones, Arya Stark would always recite the names of people that were on her list, if you will.
Oh yeah.
And so not along of a kill list, but a more like, I want to do this once we're allowed to head back into society list. I think of 3 things at the end of the workday that I want to do, that I'm looking forward to doing. For example, I want to have lunch with Hana teriyaki in my gut at the Tom Glen Common at the Bellwether. I want to spend an hour at Cafe Adagio downtown on Railroad with my notebook and my tech device, just being around people and enjoying that atmosphere. And then I also want to stroll around the Bellingham Farmers Market on a Saturday late morning with my wife and do that. That kind of visualization puts me in a good spot, and it gives me a little bit like, okay, we're gonna do this, and when that time comes, this is what I'm gonna do. So, how about you, AJ? How are you handling the insanity prevention?
Well, I would love to be there at Tom Glen Commons with you with the Hana Teriyaki at the
Oh, it'll
Bellwether. It's a
happen.
beautiful
Don't worry.
day.
We'll
Oh,
record
it
from
will.
there once
Oh,
we're out
oh
of this,
yes.
but
Oh yes.
not
That
yet.
I think that should be the first out of quarantine chronicle right there.
Yeah, there you
But
go.
I echo most of that, except instead of 80s era MTV videos, it's just, just fun videos. Honestly, like when I take a mental break, I'll have my kiddo, who's usually pretty engaged, like all Tasmanian devilness aside, he's usually playing with cars or he's working on his letters or stuff. We keep him pretty busy during the day.
He is a
So
high-spirited little shaver, and I dig him.
oh, he is. But so for kind of fun and for mental relief, even for him, cartoons. Like honestly, we'll
Oh,
throw
I
up some
love
Spot the Dog,
cartoons.
yo. Yeah, the good classic cartoons. Just throw one up because 5-10 minutes, I get a break. He gets to have some dad time and gives my wife a little bit of a reprieve. And so I use that as a mechanism. I mean, the other thing is yard work, just because, like you said, it's a honeydew list that, if I can take some stress and burden off of my wife and get some stuff done that she needs, that
Yep.
helps. And then lastly, obviously because of allergies, we've always been creative with cooking, but even more so now, dude, I got a recommendation and I have a discovery. It's a
Okay.
Bellingham discovery.
I like Bellingham
So
Discovers.
I thought you'd be on board of this. Have you heard, and I apologize to the company if you're tuning in, have you ever heard of Hosa hot sauce?
I have.
HOSA.
I don't believe
You have?
so. I haven't heard of it yet.
Okay, so I've got a link in our show notes.
Drink
And
or eat.
there you go. Eat. So this is a Bellingham based company that does fermented hot sauce. And Chris
Hmm.
Powell, I'm here to tell you, it is some of the best ding dong hot sauce I have ever had. Now, here's my qualifier. I am not one of those guys that shows up on that YouTube show,
Yeah, whatever. Hot wings. Yeah.
Hot Wings.
Celebrity
Yeah,
hot
you know
wings.
what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
I
Okay,
know what you're talking
so
about.
this next segment, you might, if you're not into hot sauces, or if you listen to 40 and 20, I'm gonna sound a lot like the guys from 40 and 20 because they love hot sauce. Dude, this hot sauce is hot, sweet, and just tasty as all get out, and it won't obnoxiously burn. Like the thing I hate about hot sauce, like Tabasco or whatever, it has that serious, like almost vinegary. The vinegar burns as much as the pepper does. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And this hot sauce, Hosa hot sauce out of Bellingham, made here in Bellingham. It's fermented. They use ingredients that honestly are I would say allergy friendly. I mean, my son, when he grows up, this could be a hot sauce he could have because it doesn't have any of his allergens. Now,
No,
spicy
very
as all
good.
get out, so I won't give it to my toddler now. But I honestly, after quarantine time, dude, I think we should reach out to the company and see if we can't get them on the mic, because I'm giving them, they're the goods. Like this is some really good hot sauce made here in
All
Bellingham.
right. Well, if it's on the goods list, then they're good people. It's great to crack a sweat with yard work and also crack a sweat with hot sauce from
Yep.
Bellingham.
Yep. And you can find them at the co-op, PSN, by the way.
Oh, perfect.
So the last thing that I have is a YouTube video that my wife shared with me that was produced here in Bellingham. Did you catch it?
I saw it and it was very inspiring, and I think this should be must-watch videos for anyone, not just if you're from our city, but just wherever you're at. We are all contending with this. Such a well-done video. But anyway, tell them about it.
Yeah. So this is actually a recommendation from my wife, also a fan and listener of the show. But Evan Pollock directed this great short for Brist MFG is the YouTube channel, and it's simply called "We Got This, comma America." But it's shot all here in Bellingham, Linden, Whatcom County area. I mean, the first establishing shot is the Herald Building lighting up all of the back to Bellingham fireworks and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And to see the long hallway side of the restaurant over at Boundary Bay completely empty, and
Yeah.
he has a kind of a beat poem that happens. This is a great video. Like you said, whether you're from Bellingham or not, the messaging of like, look, it's 2020. This is not what we expected, but we got this.
Yeah, we
And
don't liberally put show notes in our show notes. If we put something in there, we want you to check it out. And this is one
yeah,
of those things. We got this, America, and that's what it's all about.
yeah. So if you haven't seen it, like I said, a lot of it is shot here in Whatcom County. So if you want to have the vibe of what's going on here, it's a great look at it. So I wanted to have that in our show notes.
And then we also have a video of what AJ was alluding to earlier, because my man on the mic at a distance right now is a creator, and he created some content about how one can work from home. You want to see his setup. You want to get a visual of him talking on the mic right now. This video that he uploaded to YouTube is the goods. It shows a great insight into how you can use parts or equipment around your home, how you can stage an area and create some content, because we've got some free time. And here's where our creative juices can be flowing. I think the video was well done, AJ, not because I'm your podcast partner in crime, because I'm a discerning individual. But anyway, we got a link below the We Got This America video. Check it out when you get a chance.
Those are the two picks that if you're listening to this, and hopefully you're taking 30 minutes of your day listening to our show, take another 6 minutes on the video I produced, and another 5 minutes on the Pollock video.
Absolutely,
it's definitely worth your brain cycles to have a little bit of respite to check those out.
Speaking of respites, I think we should give our listeners a respite and stick a fork in the show.
Yeah, that wraps it up for this edition of the Bellingham Podcast. Thank you again so much for listening to us, rating us, reviewing us, wherever you are getting this podcast in these quarantine times. Remember, if you are in the Bellingham area, and most of you are right now because you can't go anywhere, you might be listening to us on Camry 102.3 FM.
They're community powered, fully sanitized for your protection, and are streaming worldwide at kmre.org.
Oh man, on that hand sanitizer note, I'm AJ Barsay.
And I'm Mr. Clean, Chris Powell. Thanks once again for joining us on the Bellingham Podcast.
That went pretty okay, I thought.
Chapter 2, next week. All right, there you go.
Let me hit the... Yep, that was good. Let me... where's the... There it is.